There's a series out there that's so strange and so bizarre that it genuinely makes you question what the hell you're doing by watching it. A series that honestly had me questioning what the hell I was doing with my life, and not in a good way. Nyan Neko Sugar Girls, one of the most bizarre creations that I have ever witnessed, ever. Now, the show has had a bit of a resurgence in recent years, as people are either discovering it for the first time or rediscovering it after years, evident by how many people are either making their own renditions or tributes to the series as a whole. But what is Nyan Neko Sugar Girls, and what could the cause for this new resurgence possibly be? To answer this bizarre philosophical question, we must first determine what kind of environment could possibly birth something as bizarre as this. Well, weeaboos. Yeah, weeaboos. But what kind and how? The late 2000s, especially leading up to the 2010s, was full of all sorts of weird, bizarre attempts from Westerners to engage with Japanese media, in many cases with very little respect or understanding of what they were doing. Let's be real, we all knew that one white kid named Devin or something, who claimed that he was a quarter Japanese, despite his parents looking like an Abercrombie and Fitch ad. Now, it's very important to keep in mind, this was the period just before cringe culture really became a thing. A lot of the people you would have seen on the internet were actual children or teens who had very little self-awareness or real concept of what they were doing. They were just putting themselves out there, which led to the creation of something known as fanime or fan anime, which were, in many cases, just earnest attempts from people with varying levels of talent, skill, and effort, trying their best and in some cases just creating for fun. They made what at times could be pretty cool looking things. But also, I can't really speak about other people's art considering my art kind of looks like shit. Yeah. But that brings us back to Neko Sugar Girls, doesn't it? So, to just rip the band-aid off, NNSG is basically just a slice of life anime revolving entirely around these two cat girls and this one guy who has absolutely no personality. In the first episode, they save him from some gay burglar dude. Dude, there's no sane way to explain this series. I don't even think there is supposed to be a way to do so, though. The two main characters' names are Raku-chan and Kaneko-chan. The first episode was uploaded in April of 2010 by Soap Opera 46. Here's the thing, they had a couple of other animations on their channel prior to releasing this absolute masterpiece. But for some reason, this video happened to blow up. And here's the thing, I understand why. This is like if Kappa Mikey had the budget of 12-ounce mouse and was written by otakus on crack cocaine. By the way, Raku-chan's name literally translates to rack, so you know you're in for something you probably didn't want to get into. Now, I initially started writing the script when I had only seen the first 3 or so episodes, because honestly, I didn't think there was a sane or even comprehensive way I could explain this in a way that makes any semblance of sense. The girls just hang out, nothing happens. They meet this guy with blue hair. He then gets randomly kidnapped in the second episode by a gay criminal who SAs him. Yeah, they somehow end up falling in love or something. I think this was supposed to be a parody of a yaoi relationship, which is a term I just learned like 5 minutes ago. What kind of research am I doing? Seriously, I have to question what am I even doing with this channel sometimes. Raku-chan gets bit by a radioactive squirrel and develops catgirl rabies. They end up going to the vet, who is drawn like this. Why? Also, the mic quality varies so much within the same scene that it's genuinely confusing. For example, some characters sound like this.
Oh, you're back again. So, what's the problem this time? And where's Raku-chan?
And then others sound like this.
This is Raku-chan.
All within the same scene. Not to mention, the anatomy makes absolutely no sense. It's genuinely painful to look at sometimes. And despite there being 11 episodes, the animation never improves in any way. In fact, it only gets worse. The show is also full of so much weird, unnecessary fan service, which really makes me question, who are you servicing with this? Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's lots of people mentally getting off to MS Paint drawings. You know what? Considering the type of shit DeviantArt was filled with at the time, I wouldn't even be shocked, honestly. Somehow, right between poorly implemented storylines, they managed to throw in a beach episode, which I understand a lot of animes do, and even other types of series. But was it really necessary here? The answer is yes. Also, the voice acting is just plain bizarre. Most animes that have English dubs straight up just give the characters American or English accents, as it doesn't make much sense to keep a Japanese accent when the characters are speaking a completely different language. But for some reason, here, half these characters straight up just use terms like san and chan and have strange broken English accents that sound almost racist at times. Like, what the hell is this? It's almost impossible to understand what these characters are saying half the time, which makes the lip syncing that much more impressive because it's actually somehow accurate at least half the time, which is still better than like my first couple of attempts when it comes to lip syncing. So I have to at least give the animator that, except they can't even stay consistent with that. It feels like this series is trying to mix every single otaku stereotype with bad anime dubs, yaoi fanfiction, fan service, hentai, and just everything cringe, all in some weird, disturbed attempt to make something that genuinely boils my blood. Dude, I'm not gonna lie. I was genuinely pissed off while watching this. You know, that usually never happens. I'm more or less mildly annoyed or indifferent when it comes to watching borderline bad content or even just straight up bad content. But for some reason, this series just genuinely infuriated me. I just hate looking at it too. But I think what pisses me off the most about this is the fact that it's so obviously trying to fuck with you. And in some ironic turnaround of events, the joke is on you if you get it, not if you don't. Like, I look at this and I plainly see an unfunny shitpost, but some people genuinely thought that this was some sort of earnest attempt by some amateur artist to make something they thought was genuinely interesting, but it's not. I understand the ironic fanbase surrounding the series, but when it comes to my history with the series, it goes as follows. I ended up clicking on one of these videos back in the day when I was a kid by accident. I didn't watch it at all. I was confused, but didn't really care. Even back then, I kinda understood that it was a shit post, despite the fact that I must have been in the single digits. Then I plainly exited out of it and started watching my cartoon fight videos because those were much better. But honestly, why did this series go so viral? Why would so many people believe that this was an earnest attempt to create some sort of series with some sort of meaning or value? Well, simple. Irony poisoning hadn't really set in yet. Like nowadays, some guy can upload a video like, I don't know, Goku X and Frank, and we will all know that it's nothing more than a joke. Nobody is going to take it seriously. We all know what it is. And either we could say that he's gone too far or that it's not even funny. But most of us aren't going to go further than that because we know what engagement is. This came out in 2010. Basically an entirely different era. But what I'm trying to get at is that back in the day, even if somebody in the back of their minds had something telling them that this might be an ironic piece of satire, there was still a 75% chance that it wasn't, like at all. Because that's just the way the internet worked. Before the content cops, before the leafies is here, we're really cracking down on this sort of thing. Before you could end up in a cringe compilation, the internet was very much decentralized in a weird way. The truth of the matter is most people didn't even know what memes were or how they worked. On top of that, a lot of people were either not chronically online or actual children in most cases. If any of you guys remember that Mordecai Twilight Sparkle thing that went viral a couple of years ago, that was made by what? An 11-year-old? Sites like DeviantArt were full of similar things that were kind of weird and awkward at times, but hey, it didn't really matter. It was a strange and honestly at times pretty cringy time, but it's undeniable that the internet was full of a weird sort of innocent enthusiasm. Before irony became the default setting on the internet, you had these pure embarrassing moments of sincerity. And to be fair, it's the same thing that allowed something like Nyan Neko Sugar Girls to be taken seriously at all. But honestly, it's that lack of earnestness that kind of puts me off from the series. Maybe it's just not my sense of humor, but when there are much better, well put together animes and fan series out there, I just don't know why I would waste my time watching this. I just don't understand why so many people call this an ironic masterpiece when I just don't really see it as that. Maybe I'm the odd one out, but I kind of just see this as a shitpost. And I'm not saying the shitpost can't be a masterpiece, but this just isn't my cup of tea. But I don't know, this sort of mean-spirited content just isn't something I'm into. I'm not saying I don't occasionally indulge in things that could be considered mean-spirited. I mean, a lot of 2000s TV was, at times, mean-spirited, even if it did have heart. But just to put in perspective how absolutely trivial this series is, the final episode ends with the secondary main character having absolutely nothing happen to her, like no character development. The main male love interest getting with his yaoi abuser, and Raku-chan, um, I don't even know. Nothing happens. But that's just the way the series is. Here's the thing. The series is weird, but you don't need me to tell you that. Although the series doesn't have that many episodes, which I guess makes sense. I feel like it would be really easy to milk this series and make an ungodly amount of episodes. But honestly, I guess there just wasn't a need for that, and maybe it was for the best. The final episode came out on December 24th of 2012, about 13 years ago. Strangely enough, there have been a couple uploads on the channel ever since, most of which being somewhat inconsequential, except for, funny enough, what I would call an unprompted COVID PSA, which you could tell was uploaded in 2020, with absolutely zero improvements in the quality of animation. But hey, it's in HD now, so turn the quality up on that shit, baby. Can watch this shit in 4K now. The only other upload of note I could think about is their 100K subscriber special, which was uploaded just a couple of years ago. It's kind of funny because it's not like I think this channel was out there trying to actively increase their subscriber count, with how few uploads they have. But I guess they hit 100K and they might as well have made something. I don't know. The quality for this somehow is just as bad as everything else, despite the fact that there's over a decade of improvement that could have been done. I find it kind of funny. This is definitely a bit that they had to commit to. I also think that there's a decent chance that the person who made this or whoever is responsible for this might genuinely be an actual animator who makes, I don't know, decent things. And this is just their occasional shitpost channel. It's the only thing I can possibly think of with how inconsistent the animation is. Overall, I really don't have that much to say. Nyan Neko Sugar Girls was definitely a bizarre experiment, but one that I think kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. Even if I can understand why many people enjoyed it for what it was, whether ironically or maybe not ironically, it is goofy and stupid, and also, let's be real, a lot of people grew up with it. Anyways, until next time, I'm gonna do Kokohina.